Captain Jake Morrison stared at the scanner screen with tired eyes. 3 weeks of patrol duty around the outer colonies had been quiet, too quiet. His ship, the Starship Freedom, was heading back to Earth when the sensors picked up something. Strange. Captain, we have an unknown vessel on our port side, said Lisa Chun from the pilot's seat. Her voice was calm but alert. It's not moving. Looks damaged. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the readings. The ship was huge, much bigger than anything humans had built. Its design was unlike any vessel in their database. Long, curved lines swept across its hull like frozen waves. But something was wrong with it. Dark sections showed where lights should be glowing. Any life signs? Jake asked. Ryan Torres, their engineer, checked his instruments. Yeah, but they're weak. Whatever's on that ship, they're in bad shape. Jake made his decision quickly. He had always been the type of person who helped others, even when it might be dangerous. Lisa, take us closer. Ryan prepped the docking tube. Looks like we're making first contact today. The crew of 12 moved with practiced ease. They had trained for moments like this, though none of them had ever expected to actually meet aliens. Jake put on his environmental suit and checked his translation device. The computer would try to understand any language they encountered. As they connected to the alien ship, Jake felt a strange sensation. The air that came through the docking tube was cold and carried an odd smell, like metal and something else. He couldn't identify. More troubling was the silence. No sounds of machines running, no voices, no movement at all. Hello, Jake called out as he stepped into the alien vessel. His voice echoed in the empty corridor. The walls were made of some kind of smooth silver material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Emergency lighting cast weak shadows everywhere. Behind him, Lisa and Dr. Amanda Foster followed. Amanda was their doctor and scientist. If anyone could figure out what was wrong with the aliens, it would be her. They walked through several corridors before finding the first alien. It sat on the floor, leaning against a wall. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The being was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly. Its eyes were large and dark, but they stared at nothing. It didn't even look up. When the humans approached, "Excuse me," Jake said softly. "Can you understand me?" The alien's head turned slowly toward him. When it spoke, the translation device worked perfectly. "You are not Zephyrian," it said in a flat, emotionless voice. "Why are you here? We saw your ship was damaged." "We came to help," Jake replied. "Are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" "Help." The alien repeated the word as if it had no meaning. "There is no help. There is no point. We are dying, and we do not care." Amanda stepped forward with her medical scanner. "My name is Dr. Foster. I'm a doctor. Can you tell me what's wrong?" The alien, who had introduced itself as Lyra, looked at Amanda with those empty eyes. "We have the Gray Death. It has taken everything from us. We feel nothing good anymore. No joy, no hope, no satisfaction. We exist, but we do not live." Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold air. "How long has this been happening?" 6 months since it reached our world, Lyra said. "First, we stopped laughing, then we stopped singing, then we stopped caring about anything at all. Our children stopped playing, our artists stopped creating, our leaders stopped leading. We are a dead people in living bodies." Amanda ran her scanner over Lyra. "I'm not detecting any virus or bacteria. Your body seems healthy." "The Gray Death does not attack the body," Lyra explained. "It attacks the mind's ability to feel positive emotions. We have seen it spread across the galaxy, world by world. Every species it touches becomes like us, empty." Jake's mind raced. A plague that destroyed happiness itself? It sounded like something from a nightmare. "How many of you are on this ship?" 47 survivors from a population of billions, Lyra said without any sadness in her voice, though Jake knew the words. Should have been heartbreaking. We left our world because staying meant watching our people slowly stop caring about staying alive. But leaving has not helped. We still feel nothing. Lisa had been quiet, but now she spoke up. That's horrible. I can't imagine not being able to feel happy or excited about anything. Lyra looked at her with something that might have been curiosity. You still have these feelings? Your species has not encountered the Gray Death? No, Jake said. We've never heard of anything like this. Then you will, Lyra said matter-of-factly. It spreads through space, following trade routes and communication signals. It will reach your worlds eventually. And when it does, you will understand why we no longer care if we live or die. Amanda continued her scans while Jake tried to process what they were learning. An entire galaxy was losing its ability to feel happiness, and Earth didn't even know it was coming. Lyra, Jake said, we want to help you and your people. Will you let us try? You may try, Lyra replied, but understand that we have tried. Everything. Our best scientists, our greatest doctors, our most powerful technologies. Nothing works. The Gray Death cannot be cured. Jake looked at his crew. Lisa's face showed the same determination he felt. Amanda was already making notes on her tablet, her scientific mind working on the problem. Ryan was studying the alien. Technology around them, looking for clues. Maybe your people couldn't find a cure, Jake said. But maybe we can find something you missed. Maybe being human gives us a different perspective. Human, Lyra repeated the word. Yes, you call yourselves. Humans, you're very strange. Even talking about our condition, you still seem to have hope. That emotion died in us long ago. Hope is one thing humans are really good at, Jake said with a small smile. Even when things look impossible, we keep trying. It's just who we are. Lyra studied Jake's face as if trying to understand something completely foreign. Show me your hope, human Jake Morrison. Show me how it works. Perhaps it will be interesting to observe, even if we cannot feel it ourselves. Jake nodded. We'll start by taking care of your people. Everyone on our ship is going to help. That's a promise. As they began the process of bringing the Zephyrian survivors aboard the Freedom, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were facing something bigger than a rescue mission. If this Gray Death could really spread across the galaxy, then every world, every species, every living thing that could feel joy was in danger. But looking at his crew working together, seeing their determination and compassion, Jake felt something. The Zephyrians had lost. He felt hope. And somehow, he knew that hope might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Dr. Amanda Foster had been working for 18 hours straight, but she wasn't tired. The mystery of the Gray Death kept her mind sharp and focused. In the medical bay of the Freedom, she studied blood samples from the Zephyrian survivors while they rested in the guest quarters. Jake found her there, staring at data on multiple screens. Any progress? He asked, setting down a cup of coffee next to her. This is unlike anything I've ever seen, Amanda said, rubbing her eyes. The Zephyrians are physically perfect. Their brains show no damage, no disease, no chemical imbalance. Yet they cannot feel happiness, excitement, or hope. But they can still feel other emotions? Yes, that's the strange part. They can feel fear, anger, and sadness. But anything positive is just gone. Amanda pulled up a brain scan on her screen. Look at this. These are the areas that should light up when someone feels joy or satisfaction. In humans, these areas are very active. In the Zephyrians, they're completely dark. Jake studied the scan. He wasn't a doctor, but even he could see the difference. What about pain, physical pain? They feel that normally. It's only positive emotions that are affected. Amanda switched to another screen. I've been reading their medical records, the ones Lyra gave us. The Gray Death doesn't kill people directly. They just stop caring about staying alive. That's almost worse than dying, Jake said quietly. It is worse. Death is final. But this? Amanda shook her head. They're trapped in bodies that work. perfectly, but they can't enjoy anything about being alive. Ryan Torres walked into the medical bay carrying his tablet. Amanda, I've been analyzing the data from their ship's computers. You need to see this. He showed them a map of the galaxy with red dots scattered across it. Each red dot is a world that's been affected by the Gray Death. Look at the pattern. Jake counted the dots. There were hundreds of them. It's spreading outward from the center of the galaxy. Exactly. And according to their records, it's been moving for about 5 years now. Every species it touches becomes like the Zephyrians. Amanda felt a cold fear in her stomach. How long before it reaches Earth? If it keeps moving at the same speed, maybe 2 years. Maybe less. The three humans stood in silence, thinking about what that meant. Every person on Earth, everyone they loved, could end up like the Zephyrians. Unable to laugh, unable to feel joy, unable to care about anything good in life. There has to be something we can do, Jake said. Some way to fight it. I've been thinking about that, Amanda said. What if the answer isn't medical? What if it's something else? What do you mean? Think about how we felt when we first met. The Zephyrians. We felt sorry for them. We wanted to help. We felt hope that we could find a solution. Those are all positive emotions, right? Jake nodded. So we're surrounded by beings who have the Gray Death, and we still feel fine, more than fine. Lisa was humming while she worked on the ship repairs this morning. Danny was joking with the crew during breakfast. We're not just immune to the Gray Death. We're still happy despite being around it. Ryan looked at his tablet again. That's a good point. According to these records, most species started showing symptoms within days of contact with infected beings. We've been with them for 3 days now, Jake realized, and we're all still normal. Amanda pulled up another screen showing brain scans. I took scans of our own crew this morning, just to be safe. Look at this. She showed them a human brain. Scan next to a Zephyrian 1. Our positive emotion centers aren't just working normally. They're working better than normal. Better how? It's like being around the Zephyrians is making us more determined to be happy. Our brains are producing more of the chemicals that create positive emotions, not less. Jake thought about this. It was true that he had been feeling unusually optimistic since meeting the Zephyrians. Not because their situation was good, but because he felt so strongly that he could help them. I want to try something, Amanda said. I'm going to go talk to Lyra and the others. Just normal conversation. But I want you to monitor their brain activity while I do it. 20 minutes later, Amanda sat in the common room with 5 Zephyrian survivors. Jake and Ryan watched from the medical bay through cameras, monitoring their brain scans in real time. How are you feeling today? Amanda asked Lyra. We feel the same as always. Empty, Lyra replied in that flat tone they all used. I understand, but I want you to know that we're not giving up on finding a way to help you. On the monitors, Jake saw something amazing. For just a moment, the dark areas in Lyra's brain flickered with tiny spots of light. Did you see that? Ryan whispered. The positive emotion centers, Jake said. They responded to what Amanda said. Amanda continued talking to the Zephyrians about the research she was doing, about her hope for finding answers. Each time she expressed optimism or determination, the brain scan showed brief flickers of activity in the areas that should control positive emotions, but there was something else. Amanda's own brain scan showed her positive emotion centers glowing brighter than ever. Being around the Zephyrians wasn't making her sad. It was making her more hopeful, more determined, more human. After an hour, Amanda returned to the medical bay. Did you see the scans? We saw them, Jake said. Your emotions are somehow reaching them. For just seconds at a time, but it's happening. And look at this, Ryan added, showing them Amanda's brain scan. Your positive emotion levels are off the charts. It's like helping them is making you incredibly happy, even though the situation is terrible. Amanda thought about this. Maybe that's what makes humans different. Other species try to avoid negative situations. But humans often feel our best when we're helping others, even in the worst circumstances. You mean we get happy from making others happy? Exactly. And maybe that's why we're immune to the gray death. The virus or whatever it is might work by making beings want to avoid anything that could cause positive emotions. But humans are built to find positive emotions in negative situations. Jake felt a growing excitement. So what you're saying is that the gray death can't affect us because we're too stubborn to stop being happy. In a way, yes. We're biologically designed to fight against despair. Even when everything looks hopeless, humans keep trying to find reasons to be optimistic. Ryan looked at the galaxy map again. If that's true, then maybe we really can help. Not just the Zephyrians on our ship, but all the species affected by the gray death. It's worth trying, Amanda said. Because if we can't find a way to fight this thing, in 2 years, Earth is going to find out what it's like to live without joy. Jake looked at his friends and crew members. Despite everything they had learned about the gray death, despite knowing it was heading for Earth, they were all still hopeful, still determined to find a solution, still fundamentally, stubbornly human. Then we better get to work, he said. We have a galaxy to save. Danny Kim was having trouble sleeping. As the communications officer aboard the Freedom, he usually worked the night shift while most of the crew rested, but tonight felt different. The Zephyrian survivors were in the guest quarters, and even though they made no noise, their presence felt heavy throughout the ship. Danny decided to do something that always helped him relax. He put on his headphones and started listening to music from his personal collection. His sister Katie had sent him recordings of her street performances before he left Earth. She played violin in the parks and squares of New York City, and people always stopped to listen. Without thinking, Danny connected his music player to the ship's communication system. He often did this during quiet night shifts, letting soft music play through the corridors at low volume. It helped the crew sleep better and made the ship feel less empty during long voyages. Tonight he chose one of Katie's recordings. It was a beautiful piece she had played in Central Park last spring. The melody was sad but hopeful, like a song. About missing someone, but knowing you would see them again. Danny closed his eyes and let the violin music fill the ship. 20 minutes later, his console started beeping. Someone was trying to contact him from inside the ship. Danny checked the source and was surprised to see it was coming from the Zephyrian. Quarters, this is Danny, he said into his headset. Human Danny Kim, came Lyra's voice, but it sounded different. Not as flat as usual. What is that sound coming through the speakers? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. It's just music. I can turn it off. No, Lyra said quickly. Do not stop it. What is this ... music? Danny was confused. You don't have music on your world. We had music before the Gray Death, but we stopped playing when we could no longer feel, when we could no longer... Lyra's voice trailed off. When you could no longer feel joy from it. Yes, music became meaningless noise. But this sound you are playing, it is not meaningless. I can feel something. Danny sat up straight in his chair. What do you mean? You can feel something. I do not know how to describe it. It is like remembering a dream. For moments while the music plays, there is something in my chest. Something warm. Danny's heart started beating faster. Lyra, I need to get Dr. Foster. Can you stay on the line? Yes, but please, do not stop the music. Danny kept the music playing while he called Amanda. Within minutes, she was in the communications room with her medical scanner. Danny, this is incredible. Lyra's brain scans are showing activity in the positive emotion centers. Not just flickers like before, but sustained activity. The music is doing that? It seems to be. How long has she been listening? About 30 minutes now. Amanda studied the readings. The levels are getting stronger. Danny, call Captain Morrison. He needs to see this. Soon the entire senior crew was gathered in the communications room. On the screens, They could see brain scans from all the Zephyrians in the guest quarters. Every single one showed increased activity in the areas that control positive emotions. How is this possible? Jake asked. I think it's because music isn't just sound, Amanda said. It's organized emotion. When humans create music, we put our feelings into it. And somehow, the Zephyrians can sense those emotions. Lisa looked at the recordings on Danny's music player. These are all from your sister Katie. Yeah, she's a street musician. She plays violin in New York City. A street musician, Jake repeated. Someone who plays music to make strangers happy. That's exactly what Katie does, Danny said. She always says that her goal is to make at least one person smile every day. Even if they're having the worst day of their lives, she wants to give them a few minutes of beauty. Amanda checked the brain scans again. The effect is getting stronger. Look at this. She pointed to Lyra's scan. These are almost normal levels of positive emotion activity. Over the intercom, they heard Lyra's voice. Human Danny Kim, are you there? I'm here, Lyra. The feeling is growing stronger. I think I am beginning to remember what it was like to feel glad about something. Jake felt a chill of excitement. Danny, you have more of Katie's recordings, hours of them. She's been playing. On the streets for years. Played them all. Keep the music going around the clock. For the next 3 days, Katie's violin music played continuously throughout the ship. The change in the Zephyrians was remarkable. They began to speak with more expression in their voices. They started to move around the ship instead of just sitting in their quarters. Most importantly, they began to ask questions about the music. How does your sister create these sounds? Asked a young Zephyrian named Kale. What does she think about when she plays? Danny found himself talking to the Zephyrians for hours about Katie and her music. She says that every song tells a story. This one is about hope. This one is about friendship. This one is about missing home, but knowing you'll get back someday. I can hear the stories, Kale said with something that might have been wonder. When the music changes, I can feel the story changing too. Amanda monitored the Zephyrians constantly. Their brain activity is getting closer to normal every day. But there's something else interesting. The effects are lasting longer each time. What do you mean? At first, they only felt positive emotions while the music was playing. Now, they're maintaining some of that activity even during quiet periods. It's like the music is teaching their brains how to feel joy again. Jake had an idea. Danny, can you contact your sister? Can we talk to her directly? Sure, but why? Because if music can help the Zephyrians, maybe we need to understand it better. Maybe we need to learn from someone who creates it. That evening, Danny established a video call with Earth. Katie's face appeared on the screen, smiling and excited to talk to her brother. She was in her small apartment holding her violin. Danny, how's the mission going? You said you had some kind of emergency. Jake stepped into view. Katie, I'm Captain Morrison. Your brother's music might have just saved an entire species. Katie looked confused. My music? But I just play on street corners. That's exactly why it's working, Amanda said, joining the conversation. You play to make people happy. That emotion is somehow embedded in your music, and it's helping cure a plague that destroys positive emotions. They explained the situation to Katie, showing her the brain scans and letting her talk to Lyra directly. Katie listened with growing amazement. So you're saying that when I play my violin, I'm actually sharing my feelings with people? More than that, Jake said. You're sharing your humanity, your natural ability to find beauty and hope in any situation. Katie was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. Well, if my music can help, then let's make more music. Danny, are you recording this call? Yes, why? Because I'm going to play for your alien friends right now. Katie picked up her violin and positioned it under her chin. This song is called Happier. I wrote it for people who are having the hardest day of their lives. It's about remembering that even when everything seems dark, there's always a reason to keep going. As Katie began to play, the monitoring equipment showed something incredible. Not only were the Zephyrin's positive emotion centers lighting up brighter than ever, but for the first time since the Gray Death had affected them, several of them began to cry. But these weren't tears of sadness. Amanda realized with shock that they were tears of joy. The Zephyrians were feeling happiness so strongly after months of emptiness that their bodies didn't know how to process it except through tears. "It's working," Lyra whispered over the intercom. "I can feel it. I can feel glad to be alive." Jake looked at his crew, at the brain scans showing recovered aliens, at Katie playing her heart out across the void of space. A street musician from New York City had just accomplished what the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy couldn't do. She had given hope back to the hopeless. Word traveled fast through the galaxy. Within a week of Katie's first performance for the Zephyrians, 3 more damaged ships arrived at the Freedom's location. Each ship carried survivors from different worlds, all affected by the Gray Death. The small human vessel was suddenly surrounded by alien refugees who had heard rumors of a possible cure. Jake stood on the bridge, looking at the crowded space around his ship. "How many survivors are we talking about now, Lisa?" 234 beings from 7 different species, Lisa replied, checking her instruments. "And more ships are coming. Our communications are picking up distress signals from at least a dozen other vessels heading this way." Amanda had been working without sleep for days, studying the new arrivals. Each species showed the same symptoms as the Zephyrians. No matter what they looked like, no matter how different their biology, they all had the same empty stares and flat voices. "The good news is that Katie's music works on all of them," Amanda told Jake as they walked through the packed corridors. "Every species responds to human music the same way. Their positive emotion centers start working again. And the bad news? The effect only lasts as long as they're listening. When the music stops, they go back to feeling empty within a few hours." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "So we need constant music to keep them stable? That's the problem. Katie has been playing for almost 18 hours a day, but she's only one person. She needs to sleep and eat and rest her hands. And we have over 200 survivors who need help." They had moved the alien survivors to several larger ships that had arrived, creating a small fleet around the Freedom. But managing so many refugees was becoming impossible for Jake's small crew. Ryan Torres had been working on a technical solution. He found Jake and Amanda in the medical bay, looking exhausted but excited. "I think I figured out how to help," Ryan said, holding up a strange device. "I've been studying how human emotions affect our brain waves and voice patterns. This machine can record and amplify those patterns." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means we can make human emotions stronger and broadcast them to more people at once. When Katie plays her violin, this device will pick up not just the music, but the actual emotional energy she puts into it. Then it will send that energy to every survivor in the fleet." Amanda looked at the device with interest. "You're talking about amplifying human feelings and transmitting them like radio waves?" "Exactly. I tested it with some of Katie's recordings. The device can take the emotional content from her music and make it 10 times stronger. One performance could reach hundreds of beings instead of just a few dozen." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Show us how it works." They set up the device in the main communications room. Katie was already there, having just finished another long performance session. She looked tired but determined to keep helping. "Katie, we want to try something new," Jake explained. "Ryan has built a machine that can make your music reach more people and have a stronger effect." Katie looked at the strange device with curiosity. "Will it hurt the aliens?" "No, it should help them more," Amanda said. "Think of it like a loudspeaker, but instead of just making sound louder, it makes emotions louder too." "That sounds amazing. Let's try it." Katie positioned her violin and began to play one of her favorite pieces, a song she had written about sunrise after a long night. As she played, Ryan's device hummed to life, recording not just the music, but something invisible that came with it. The results were immediate and dramatic. Throughout the fleet, aliens who had been sitting motionless suddenly lifted their heads. Brain scans showed positive emotion activity stronger than they had ever recorded, but something unexpected happened. Several of the survivors began to make sounds they hadn't made in months. The Zephyrians started humming along with Katie's melody. The tall, green-skinned Verdants began a rhythmic clicking that matched the beat. Other species added their own sounds, creating a symphony of different voices joining together. "They're singing," Amanda whispered in amazement. "They're actually singing." Over the intercom, Lyra's voice came through, but it was different from anything they had heard before. There was warmth in it, actual emotion. "Human Katie, your music is making us remember our own songs. Songs we thought were lost forever." Katie stopped playing, tears in her eyes. "You can sing? You want to sing with me?" "Yes," came voices from throughout the fleet. "We want to make music again." For the next hour, Katie played while hundreds of alien voices joined in. Each species contributed their own sounds, their own way of expressing the joy that was returning to them. The bridge of the freedom filled with a harmony unlike anything humans had ever heard. But Jake noticed something troubling. Despite the success, Katie was swaying on her feet. "Katie, you need to rest." "I'm okay," she said, but her voice was weak. "They need the music." "Katie, you've been playing for almost 20 hours straight. You're going to collapse." Ryan checked his instruments. The emotional amplifier is working, but it's drawing energy from Katie herself. The stronger we make the signal, the more tired she gets. Amanda immediately started scanning Katie with her medical equipment. Her stress levels are dangerously high. "Jake, she can't keep this up much longer." Jake made a difficult decision. "Katie, I'm ordering you to stop and rest." "That's not a request, but the aliens need help," Katie protested. "They do need help, but not if it kills you. We have to find another way." As Katie's music stopped, the singing throughout the fleet gradually faded. Within an hour, the brain scans showed the aliens returning to their empty state. The hope that had filled their voices was gone again. Jake called a meeting with his senior staff. "We have a problem. The music works, but we can't expect one person to provide healing for hundreds of beings around the clock. What if we had more musicians?" Lisa suggested. "Katie's sister isn't the only human who can play music." "That's true, but how do we get more musicians out here? We're weeks away from Earth." Danny had been thinking about this. "What if we don't bring the musicians here? What if we bring the music to the musicians?" "What do you mean?" "I mean we broadcast what's happening here back to Earth. We show people what Katie's music is doing. We ask for help." Amanda nodded slowly. "You want to turn this into a galaxy-wide concert? Why not? Katie proved that human music can cure the gray death, but she's just one person with one violin. What if we had orchestras? What if we had rock bands and jazz musicians and singers? What if we had thousands of humans making music specifically to help the aliens?" Ryan looked at his amplification device. "I could modify this to work in reverse. Instead of just broadcasting from here, we could receive musical performances from Earth and transmit them to the aliens with the same emotional amplification." Jake felt the familiar stirring of hope that seemed to define humanity. "So you're saying we could have concerts on Earth, and the aliens here could feel the full emotional impact as if they were in the audience?" "Exactly. And not just here. We could set up networks throughout the galaxy. Every human world could contribute music. Every alien world could receive healing." Katie, who had been resting on a nearby chair, sat up with renewed energy. "You want to turn music into medicine for the entire galaxy? That's exactly what we want to do," Jake said. "But we'll need help from everyone. Every musician on Earth. Every human who can sing or play an instrument." "They'll help," Katie said with confidence. "Musicians live to make people happy. When they hear about this, when they understand that music can literally save lives, every artist in human space will want to be part of it." Amanda was already making plans. We'll need to study the effects more carefully. We'll need to understand exactly how human emotions translate through music to alien brains. This could be the foundation for curing the gray death completely. Jake looked around at his crew, at the fleet of refugee ships, at the vast galaxy beyond. A few days ago, they had been a small patrol ship on routine duty. Now they were about to launch the largest musical collaboration in galactic history. Danny, open a channel to Earth. It's time to ask humanity to sing for the galaxy. The response from Earth was beyond anything Jake had imagined. Within hours of Danny's broadcast explaining the situation, communication channels were flooded with messages from musicians around the world. Every major city, every small town, every human colony wanted to help. Captain, we have over 10,000 volunteers already, Danny reported, barely able to keep up with the incoming messages. Symphony orchestras, rock bands, school choirs, street musicians, even people who just sing in their showers. Everyone wants to contribute. Jake stood in the communications room, watching the flood of responses scroll across the screens. Messages in dozens of languages, all saying the same thing. How can we help? The first organized concert came from London. The Royal Orchestra had assembled within 6 hours of hearing Katie's story. As their music reached the freedom through Ryan's amplification network, something magical happened throughout the alien fleet. Look at these readings, Amanda said, monitoring the brain scans of hundreds of aliens. The orchestra is affecting them even more than Katie's solo performances. Why? Jake asked. I think it's because there are more humans involved. The emotional energy from 60 musicians playing together is incredibly powerful. And they're all focused on the same goal, helping the aliens feel joy again. Over the next week, the network grew rapidly. Tokyo contributed a massive choir of 5,000 voices. Nashville sent country musicians who sang about hope and home. A group of jazz musicians in New Orleans played music that made even the most serious aliens start swaying to the rhythm. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Carl Rodriguez, a street musician from Mexico City, sent a simple recording of himself playing guitar and singing a folk song his grandmother had taught him. The song was about finding light in darkness, about never giving up even when everything seemed lost. When Carl's song played through the network, something unprecedented happened. The aliens didn't just listen. They began to heal permanently. Amanda, are you seeing this? Jake asked, staring at the brain scans in disbelief. Carl's song isn't just activating their positive emotion centers, it's rebuilding them. Look at Lyra's scan from yesterday compared to today. The difference was remarkable. Yesterday, Lyra's brain showed positive activity only when music was playing. Today, even during quiet periods, her brain maintained normal levels of joy and hope. How is that possible? I think it's because Carl's song is different from the others. The orchestra pieces and pop songs are beautiful, but they're performed music. Carl's song is live music. It comes from his real experiences, his real pain, and real hope. Jake thought about this. You mean it's more authentic? Exactly. When someone sings about overcoming hardship, and they've actually overcome hardship, that emotion is stronger, more real. And somehow the aliens can sense that difference. They contacted Carl directly. He was a thin man in his 50s, with kind eyes and hands worn from years of playing guitar on street corners. His small apartment was filled with musical instruments, most of them old and well used. Mr. Rodriguez, your song is having an incredible effect on the alien survivors, Jake explained. We think it might be the key to permanent healing. Carl looked confused. But it's just an old song my grandmother sang to me when I was scared. I've been playing it for tourists for 20 years. That's exactly why it works, Amanda said. You've lived the emotions in that song. When you sing about hope, you really mean it. Can you teach other musicians how to perform like that? Jake asked. How to put real emotion into their music, Carl smiled. That's not something you can teach. But I know thousands of musicians who already understand. Street musicians, folk singers, blues players. People who make music because they have to, not because someone pays them to. Within days, a new type of musician began joining the network. These weren't famous performers or trained professionals. They were people like Carl, who played music to survive, to express their deepest feelings, to connect with others who had experienced the same struggles. Helen Davis, a teacher from Chicago, sang lullabies her mother had sung to her during the worst nights of her childhood. Marcus Johnson, a former soldier, played blues guitar that spoke of loss and recovery. Maria Santos, a nurse from Brazil, contributed songs she hummed while caring for patients, melodies filled with compassion and healing. The effect on the aliens was transformative. Not only were their positive emotions returning, but they were staying strong even without constant music. More importantly, they were beginning to create their own music again. "Human Jake," Lyra said during one of their daily conversations, "we would like to contribute to your network. You want to make music? Yes, we remember our songs now, thanks to your people. And we think our music might help other survivors better than human music alone." Jake was intrigued. "How so?" "Because we know exactly what the gray death feels like. We know the emptiness, the despair. When we sing about overcoming it, other survivors will believe us in a way they might not believe humans." The first Zephyrian song to join the network was simple but powerful. It was a melody Lyra had composed about the moment she first heard Katie's violin, about feeling hope return after months of darkness. When it played for other Gray Death survivors throughout the galaxy, the response was immediate. "They're responding faster to the Zephyrian music than to human music," Amanda observed. "Recovery times are down from weeks to days." Soon, survivors from other species began contributing their own songs. The Verdants created rhythmic chants about renewal and growth. The crystalline Sharonites produced harmonic frequencies that seemed to vibrate with pure joy. Each species added their unique voice to the growing symphony of healing. The network expanded beyond Earth. Human colonies throughout space organized their own concerts. Military ships contributed work songs and marching tunes filled with determination and camaraderie. Even children sent recordings of playground songs and nursery rhymes that carried the innocent joy only children could create. But the most powerful addition came from an unexpected source. A group of human doctors and nurses working in refugee camps sent recordings of themselves singing while they worked. These weren't formal songs, just humming and quiet singing while they cared for patients. "These medical recordings are showing the strongest healing effects yet," Amanda reported. "I think it's because they combine music with the act of helping others. The aliens can sense that the humans singing these songs are actively making the world better." Jake realized they had created something much larger than a cure for the Gray Death. They had built a network of human emotion that reached across the galaxy, connecting worlds through shared music and shared hope. "Danny, how many worlds are participating now?" 47 human worlds and 18 recovered alien worlds. The network is reaching approximately 2 million survivors across the galaxy. And how many musicians are contributing? Over 300,000 humans and about 50,000 recovered aliens. Jake looked at the map showing the network's reach. Red dots that had once marked worlds affected by the Gray Death were turning blue as survivors recovered and began contributing their own healing music. "We did it," Jake said quietly. "We actually did it." "Not yet," Amanda said, pointing to the galaxy map. "The Gray Death is still spreading. We're healing the survivors we can reach, but new worlds are being affected every day. We need to do more than just treat the victims. We need to prevent the plague from spreading." Jake nodded. "Then it's time for the next phase. If human music can cure the Gray Death, maybe it can also stop it completely." 6 months after the Freedom first encountered the Zephyrian refugees, Jake stood in the observation deck of the newly built station orbiting Earth. Through the windows, he could see ships from dozens of species coming and going, all part of what had become known as the Terran Emotional Restoration Initiative. Amanda found him there, holding a tablet with the latest reports. "Jake, you need to see this," she said, excitement clear in her voice. "Good news, I hope. The best news possible. We just received confirmation from the research team on Zephyros Prime. A child was born there yesterday. The first Zephyrian child. Born since the Gray Death reached their world." Jake turned from the window. "How is that good news? Won't the child be affected by the plague too?" "That's just it. The child isn't affected. She's showing completely normal emotional development. Brain scans reveal perfect positive emotion activity. She can feel joy, happiness, excitement, all of it." "But how is that possible?" Amanda smiled. "Because her parents have been part of our music network for months. Their brains have been healing, rebuilding the neural pathways that the Gray Death destroyed. When they conceived this child, those pathways were already restored. She inherited healthy emotional systems." Jake felt a wave of hope wash over him. "You're saying the cure isn't just temporary? We're actually reversing the damage permanently. More than that, we're making them immune to future infection." The child's name is Hope, by the way. Her parents chose that name specifically. Over the intercom, they heard familiar voices. The station's main hall had become a permanent concert venue where musicians from across the galaxy performed for audiences of recovering survivors and their families. Today, it was Carl Rodriguez playing his grandmother's song, accompanied by a Zephyrian choir. "I still can't believe how big this has become," Jake said, listening to the beautiful harmonies. "The latest count shows we have active healing networks on over 300 worlds," Amanda said, checking her tablet. "The Gray Death has stopped spreading completely. In fact, it's retreating. Worlds that were fully infected are now completely recovered. How do we know it's really gone? Because we're not just treating the symptoms anymore. We figured out how the plague actually works." Amanda pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans. "The Gray Death isn't a virus or a disease. It's more like a signal that convinces brains to shut down their positive emotion centers. But human music creates a countersignal that's much stronger. A battle of signals? Exactly. And human emotions, especially when shared through music, are incredibly powerful. So powerful that they don't just block the Gray Death signal, they completely overwhelm it. Once a brain has been exposed to enough human emotional energy, it becomes permanently immune." Jake thought about all the musicians who had contributed to the network, from famous orchestras to street performers like Carl from military bands, to children's choirs. Hundreds of thousands of humans sharing their emotions with beings they had never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. "There's something else," Amanda said. "The recovered species aren't just immune to the Gray Death. Their emotional capabilities are actually stronger than they were before the plague." "Stronger how?" "They're more resilient, more optimistic, better at finding joy in difficult situations. It's like exposure to human emotional patterns has taught them to feel happiness the way humans do." This was demonstrated perfectly when Lyra entered the observation deck. She moved with energy and purpose that would have been impossible during her first days on the Freedom. But more importantly, she was smiling. "Captain Morris and Dr. Foster," she said warmly, "I wanted to thank you before I leave for the outer." "Rim, you're leaving?" Jake asked. "Yes, but not because I'm running away this time. I'm going to help establish new music networks and systems that haven't been reached yet. There are still survivors out there who need healing. That's dangerous work. The Outer Rim is mostly unexplored space." Lyra's smile widened. "That's what makes it exciting. 6 months ago, the word exciting had no meaning for me. Now I wake up every day looking forward to new adventures, new challenges, new opportunities to help others feel the joy I've rediscovered." She paused and looked out at the busy space around the station. "You humans have given us something more valuable than a cure for the Gray Death. You've shown us what it means to be truly alive." After Lyra left, Jake and Amanda continued reviewing the reports. The news was consistently good. Recovery rates were nearly 100%. No new outbreaks have been reported in over 2 months. Most importantly, children born to recovered parents showed not just immunity to the Gray Death, but enhanced emotional intelligence. Amanda, do you think this is really over? Have we actually defeated a galaxy-wide plague with nothing but music? Not just music, Amanda corrected. We defeated it with humanity, with our stubborn refusal to give up hope even when everything looks hopeless, with our need to help others even when we don't know them, with our ability to find joy in the act of making others happy. Danny's voice came through the intercom. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to make an official announcement. Jake and Amanda made their way to the communications center. On the main screen, representatives from dozens of species appeared. All of them were beings who had been affected by the Gray Death, and were now fully recovered. The speaker was a tall, elegant being from the Andromedian sector. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, 6 months ago, our civilizations faced extinction from a plague that destroyed our ability to feel joy, hope, or satisfaction. Today we are proud to announce that the Gray Death has been completely eradicated. Cheers! Erupted throughout the station. Jake could hear celebrations echoing from ships all around them. This victory was made possible by the remarkable species called humans, the speaker continued. They demonstrated that even the darkest plague could be defeated by the simple act of sharing happiness with others. The formal announcement continued. But Jake found himself thinking about Katie. She was back on Earth now, but she still performed regularly for the network. Her street corner concerts in New York City were broadcast to recovering worlds throughout the galaxy. Tourists from dozens of species visited Earth just to hear her play violin in Central Park. Jake, Amanda said, interrupting his thoughts, there's one more thing you should know. The Galactic Council has created a new position, Director of Emotional Wellness. They want you to take the job. Me? But I'm not a doctor or a musician. No, but you're the person who decided to help when everyone else said it was impossible. You're the one who believed that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our weapons, but our refusal to let others suffer alone. Jake looked around the station at the mixture of human and alien crew members working together. In the main hall, he could hear a children's choir from Earth singing a song of friendship while young aliens from 6 different species sang along in their own languages. What would the job involve? Expanding the network to cover the entire galaxy, making sure that no world ever has to face despair alone again, teaching other species how to build their own emotional support systems. Jake smiled. You know what? That sounds like the best job in the galaxy. As he watched ships full of recovered families heading home to rebuild their worlds, Jake realized something wonderful. The Gray Death had tried to steal joy from the galaxy, but it had failed completely. Not only had the survivors recovered their ability to feel happiness, they were now happier than they had ever been before. And at the center of it all was humanity's simple but powerful truth. The best way to be happy is to make others happy too.